What's going on, guys? It's New York Prepper here. I just wanted to do a SHTF tactics video, and I'm going to talk about one of the most important tactics that you need to know for SHTF, WROL, without rule of law, the end of the world as we know it, grid down situations. So today's tactic is basically a very important and foundational tactic that every prepper should know. And if you've been in the military, you probably already know this element. It's not so, I guess it's a tactic, but it's more so much like a concept of war, and it's been around for hundreds of years. I think maybe even Sun Tzu has wrote about it. I don't know, because I never read The Art of War, but it's historically been it's a tactic used that's, it's been used by dictators for hundreds of years. Napoleon used it, Hitler used it, all the famous military dictators used it to their advantage. And that's the concept of enfilade and defilade, and this is a very important concept for SHTF. So let me just give you an example, right? Okay, so if we're in an SHTF situation, right? Let's say, you and your group are hiking down a hiking trail, or you're, moving down a roadway, so I'll just draw right now. Here we have, this could be a hiking trail, or it could be like a road. It could be like a roadway. Let me focus the camera. Here we go. So this could be your, your roadway, let's say, or it could be a hiking trail, either way. Let's say it's a hiking trail. Or so here you have your buildings, you have your, let's say this is like in a more urbanized area, so you may have like buildings here, or houses, whatever, shops. Okay. So this is your urban area, and then let's say, alternatively, we have our hiking trail, so we're hiking somewhere in the mountains, and it's a really narrow trail. Let's say it's like the Appalachian Trail or something. If you're on the East Coast, you should know what that is. And then here you have, woods, trees. Let's see if you guys can see that. Yeah, okay. Here you have your trees. Okay, just bear with me while I, draw and try to make this look, pretty decent. This is definitely worth watching this video. I guarantee you that you're going to learn something that you may not know already. And, you're definitely going to take something useful away from this short video. Alright, so, we have our hiking trail, and then we have our, let me just draw out, hiking trail, and then here we have our road. Okay, let's see if I can just make sure you guys can see that well. Okay, so we have our hiking trail and our roadway. So here's an example. Let's say you and your group are, moving through, let's say either you're in a bug out situation, or it could be a get home situation. For whatever reason, you're moving from one area to another, from point A to point B. You have to get to one area from another area, and you have to go, let's say you have to go down a roadway, or let's say you're using a hiking trail to get to where you need to go. Alright, so let's say you're marching, and let's say you have you and your family and maybe a few other people. So I'm gonna mark with dots, each person. Okay, let's say you guys are kind of walking in like this column formation here. So here you have a bunch of people marching down the road. Okay, that could be your prepper group, and it doesn't have to be this many people. But let's say, you know, you guys are walking down, same thing like hiking trail, you know, let's say you guys are walking in a straight line here, you know, because it's narrow. It's a narrow hiking trail. Hiking trails are usually 1 or 2 feet wide. Okay. So it's a narrow hiking trail, and you guys are forced to walk in a straight line, obviously, you know, because, you know, if it's a hiking trail that's 2 feet wide, you know, everybody's going to be walking one behind another. Same thing with a roadway. You know, a roadway kind of funnels your movement because it's a narrow area, and the buildings are preventing you from walking through these areas, so it kind of funnels you into this little narrow area. You know, it's like a choke point. And so basically, this if you're marching in this type of a position, either on the hiking trail or on the road, like the way I have it depicted with the dots, you're in a very dangerous and disadvantaged position. You'd never want to be like this. This is what's called an enfilade. Okay, so here we have enfilade. Okay, so this is the first critical principle, is enfilade. All right, so you know, you're marching down. Let's just write forest here. Forest. And here we have, you know, whatever, buildings. Okay, so you guys are marching down the road, you know, or down your hiking trail, and let's say let's say there's bad guys over here behind these buildings, or they could be up in the windows. Okay, so you have so the bad guys I'm going to mark with an X, you know. So we have, let's say we have a bad guy here. We have a bad guy here. Okay. You know, we may have a bad guy around the corners of the buildings, you know, on the ground level. So the X's inside the box signify a bad guy that's inside the building. He might be on the 2nd or 3rd floor or 4th floor. You know, he's up high. He's getting the high ground. And then we have bad guys on the ground level as well, and they're around the buildings here. Okay, around the corners. Okay, and they're waiting for you. These bad guys, you know, they could be marauders, and this could be like a main road. And these bad guys, you know, they could just be waiting for people to pass by so they can ambush them. And that could be you and your group, or you and your family. Or they could have, let's say, seen you from a long distance, and they got into position quickly, and they decided that they're going to try to basically ambush you at this point. So in this position, when you guys are marching in this type of a column here, everybody's close together in a straight, you know, basically this is like a column formation because it looks like a column. Basically, if they decide to ambush you, they're in an advantageous position now, and this is what's called an enfilade. So if these guys start shooting at you, you know, let's say they're shooting at you right now. Okay, so you're walking, and all of a sudden, you know, they open fire on you guys. You know, hold on, let me draw. You know, let's draw this out so it's, you know, a little bit. All right, I hope you guys can see better now. So the X's, which are the bad guys, they're now going to open fire on you. And the problem with marching like in a column formation like this is that they can direct their fire down the longitudinal axis of your formation. Okay, so this is your your y-axis. This is your, you know, if you remember school, you know, you have your X and your Y. This is your X-axis, and this is your Y-axis, okay? So this is your longitudinal axis here, okay? So this is your y-axis, right? This is your longitudinal. If they start opening fire on you and they're coming, let's say they pop out of the buildings or they're shooting from the windows, they come out around the corner and they start opening fire on you, they can basically mow down your entire formation right here, and they can take you guys all out very quickly. And you know, it's going to be very hard for you to return fire without shooting your own guys, because you have everybody, you know, clustered together in this long, you know, column formation. So if, let's say, these guys here in the front, they're going to start taking fire first. Once these guys start taking fire, these guys here are not going to be able to quickly return fire back towards, you know, your bad guys, because if they do, they may shoot their own guys. So if you're like these two guys back here, or these four guys back here, and you start seeing your fellow preppers getting shot in the front, you're not going to be able to quickly return fire, because if you do, there's going to be friendly fire. You're going to be shooting over your own guys. All right, so that's one problem with this. Another problem is that they're all shooting down the longitudinal axis. So they basically, you know, if they have, as soon as these guys start to fall down, once they're hit, these guys are going to be taking bullets as well. And unless they break off, and, you know, let's say they break off and take cover in the buildings or something, behind the buildings, you know, they run inside, or they run into a doorway or something. Even if they do that, they're still in a high likelihood of getting taken out, you know, like by these guys. Same thing, you know, if you're walking down a hiking trail here, and there's a curve in the hiking trail, and I've said this before on my videos, curves are the worst place to be. You know, when you're going around a curve in a roadway, or if it's a curve in a hiking trail and you can't see around the other side, this is historically where ambushes take place, okay? Ambushes always will take place around the corner of a turn, okay? Whether it's a road, whether it's a terrain feature, anything where your vision is obstructed and you can't see, you know, like these guys up here, the point man, this is the first guy in the column here. He can't see what's over here, okay? So there could be a bad guy waiting for you right here, okay? I don't know if you guys can see my X. So let's say in this example we have bad guys here marked by the X's, okay? We have one bad guy on the trail, and we have one bad guy on each side of the trail, you know, and there may be another bad guy here supporting them, you know, up in the woods, okay? I'm just going to circle them so this way it distinguishes it from the, you know, from the woods, okay? So you have, let's say you're marching down the trail. This guy in the front here, he cannot see this guy here, because it's around a turn, okay? And same thing, these guys in the woods here, all these X's, they're not going to really be able to see unless they're, you know, paying attention. If these guys are in concealment, these guys are well concealed and behind cover, you know, your guys are not going to really be able to see them here. So, you know, once you start moving down, you know, you start moving down around this turn here, all of a sudden this guy's going to open fire, and they're all going to open fire, you know, and this guy, you know, they're going to have also an advantageous position here, because what happens is all your group is in a formation like a column, and this guy here and these guys on either side are going to basically mow down your entire column, and because it's in a straight line, the bullets are going to go straight through everybody, and it's going to take out your whole group in a matter of seconds. And then you also have these elements here on the side, you know, off in the woods, and they're going to be supporting, let's say, your main ambush element, which would be right here. These guys are going to be supporting the main element here. So when these guys in the back, they say, oh crap, you know, we're getting mowed down, they start running in the woods here, you know, they go to the sides, these guys are going to direct fire on them and prevent them from escaping. Okay, so this will be the kill box right here. And same thing over here in the urban depiction. So, and this is what's called an enfilade. Okay, an enfilade is when you never want to be in an enfilade. The only time you want to be in an enfilade, or an enfilade is good, is if you're the one doing the ambushing. Okay, so if you're the actual ambusher, if you're these guys, the guys marked by the X's, that's what you want. Okay, if you're doing any kind of ambush, you want your enemy to be in an enfiladed position. Okay, just like we see here. So you want to force your enemy into a choke point where they're going to be forced into an enfiladed position. And that's what corners do, and that's what terrain features do. That's why if you're moving through an area, you always have to pay attention to terrain features and choke points, you know, and you never want to be funneled into a narrow area, you know, like a road where you're forced to march in this narrow formation like we see here. You never want to be in that situation. You never want to be in this kind of a narrow, long column formation. However, if you're the guy ambushing, let's say you and your group, you know, you want to ambush a group of marauders that you know are operating in a certain area. In that situation, you're going to want to force your enemy into a choke point or into, you know, an area where they're going to be funneled. All right, but if you're like patrolling or you're moving from point A to point B, you don't want to move like this. This is catastrophically dangerous. Okay, you never want to march in a formation like this. This is just asking for problems. So what you want to do is you want to move in a defilade. Okay, so here's your enfilade, and I'm going to get another sheet of paper and draw a defilade for you. Okay. Alright guys, so now we're going to talk about the defilade, and I spared you the time and I drew it ahead of time rather than drawing it while I was speaking. So if you remember from the defilade, enfilade is here, we got a column formation, okay, and if we compare the enfilade, which is here, and this is our defilade, okay, and so defilade is advantageous for the defender. Okay, this is your prepper group right here, all the dots. Or if let's say you're hiking in the forest and you have your trail, okay, these dots here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are your preppers, okay, and then these X's here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are your bad guys. All right, it's a little hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay. Alright, so if you're in a defilated position, that's advantageous to you if you're the defender. It's not advantageous for these guys here, for the bad guys. Because if you're the ambusher, a defilade is bad because if I'm the ambusher here, right, I'm one of these X's and I start directing fire, you know, down here towards, you know, your group, you know, let's see, you know, we're directing fire. Okay, so these bad guys are directing fire. This is a better position to be in. If you're marching and you're moving through, this is a city area here. You know, you're marching through this area. This is much better than being in a column because they can't just mow you guys down like they can if you're, you know, enfiladed. Okay, so if you're in an enfiladed position, they can just mow you down because they're going to shoot down your axis. Okay, this is, remember, the y-axis. Here we have more of an x-axis situation. So as soon as these guys start opening fire, let's say this is your point man, you know, right here's your point man. these guys are spread out far enough where they can return fire back towards the bad guys without shooting through their own good guys, through their own friends, you know. So that's where the first immediate advantage is to being spread out like this. You know, and aside from that, because you're spread out more in like a line formation, it's going to be harder for them to just mow you guys down and shoot along your, you know, shoot straight down and just start mowing people down. You know, like here, if somebody here has an automatic rifle, okay, let's say you're marching in this direction, you know, and one of these guys down here comes out and he has an automatic rifle, or, you know, you know, whatever, and, you know, semi-automatic. It doesn't have to be fully automatic, but he has a high level of firepower and he can direct a lot of firepower, and he's shooting down your length here. He can literally just kill everybody. Just one guy, he can just mow everybody down here and take out 10 people, you know, versus here, if this guy pops out and he physically can't mow everybody down, because as soon as he starts shooting at this guy here, or, you know, this guy or this guy, as soon as he starts shooting at them, these guys are gonna drop to the ground, or they're gonna take cover. You know, they're gonna move here behind, you know, the building. You know, they're gonna go behind cover. All right, and they're gonna start shooting back. So this is why when you're marching and you're moving through an area, you never want to be in this type of formation, you know, where you're in a column like this, or if you're in the woods, you know, you don't want to be in a line, you know, like that. You want to be spread out. And typically the way that they do that in the military is they have a reverse V formation. So you have, like, it looks like a V, and then you can also have your column, your line formation, where it's basically totally opposite from a, you know, from your column. You know, this is a line formation, and this would be a column formation over here. Right here's a column, and then here's your line. The problem with a line formation, although it's better than this, a line formation, if you were, let's say you were in a line formation and you were moving through the city here, if somebody, let's say they see that, let's say these ambushers here, okay, they see that you're moving through, but you're not in a column like they expect you to be. So they see that you're kind of anticipating it, and you're in a line formation. And what then they can do is they can reposition their guys, their forces, and they can ambush you along the x-axis. So let's say you're marching here, you're marching down the street, they can reposition, you know, some of these guys, and they can shoot down this way from the side, which is your flank. They're going to be shooting from your flank. And if they shoot from your flank, they can also direct the fire and mow down all your guys, okay? Because if these guys here try to return fire back, they're going to have to shoot over the guys in front of them. Unless, even if they, I guess if they can split apart, okay, they can go to different directions and then take cover. But by the time they do that, you know, most of these guys are going to be killed. If it's like semi-automatic fire, you know, by the time these guys are not going to really have time to get out of the way and get into cover, because it's going to be shooting through all of them. So that's why the military developed, you know, and a lot of militaries around the world, they realized the happy medium between the column and the line formation is this one, which is your V formation, you know. And the V formation is resistant to shooting from the front, and it's resistant from shooting from flanking fire, okay? Because if you shoot from the front, you're not going to be able to mow down everybody. These guys are going to take cover, they're going to break off, and they're going to go off to the sides, take cover, and shoot back. And if you shoot from the side and you try to take out a V formation from the side, let's say, like I said in this example here, where the bad guys, they see that you're coming in a different way, and they reposition their formation, you know, this way, so they can shoot along your flank. In this situation, it's still not advantageous for the bad guy because you're not all lined up. So, you know, this guy can shoot back, this guy can shoot back, this guy can shoot back, and these two guys can break off and go down here and take cover, and then they can shoot back as well. So that's why the V formation is the most superior way to move from point A to point B, rather than, you know, your line formation, you know, or your column formation. Especially if you're in a small group of people, you know, if you don't have a lot of firepower, the V formation is preferred rather than the line or the column. So basically a defilade, you know, to sum this up, I'm not going to get too much deeper into this because you can really spend a lot of time. I'll have to make a separate video talking more about, you know, unit formations and stuff like that. You know, if you have a larger group, then you can do multiple V formations, you know, rather than just one. Let's say you have 10 guys, you do one V formation back here, then maybe 50 yards ahead you have another V formation like this. Okay, you know, it doesn't have to be 5 guys, it could be 4, it could be 3, but you know, or wedge, they call it a wedge, a V or a wedge, whatever you want to call it. You split them up, and this could be like, you know, 50 meters apart, you know, 50 meters apart, so this way you're resistant to any flanking fire or forward, you know, enfilading fire. You know, these guys here, these will be your leaders of each wedge, and they're going to be communicating to each other the whole time. You know, these are going to be you're going to want to appoint like a leader for each wedge. You know, everybody's going to have different roles. You know, the guys out here are going to have different types of weapons than the guys up here. You know, out here you're going to want to have a lot of your heavier firepower and your long range out here, because they're going to be supporting. If these guys start taking fire in the front, these guys can take cover and they can return heavy fire back to the enemy, either from a long distance or with heavy firepower to suppress the enemy or you know, take them out. But up here you're going to want to have your point men. You know, you're going to want them to be, typically the leader is going to be somewhere, either you don't want them right in the front, because if the leader is right in the front, he's usually going to be the first guy to get taken out. If an enemy's trying to take out a group, they usually shoot the first person they see. So you never want to put your leader directly in the front, because they'll most likely be taken out. You want to protect your leader and put your leader somewhere in the middle. Okay, so here's your leader here, and you have one wedge here, and then you have one wedge here, and then another one here. Okay, your leader's going to be in the middle right here. So no matter where the enemy's shooting from, whether it's this way, or they come from the back or from the side, it doesn't matter which direction, your leader and your most important people are going to be right in the middle, protected by, you know, your rear element, your front element here, and he's also going to be protected by these guys that are around him, you know. And he's not going to be in direct fire. But you want to also have your leader in the middle, because then he can communicate with the rear and the front. He can communicate with everybody in this formation here. Okay, he can communicate with the rear point man. He can communicate with his point man, and then he can communicate with this front point man here. Okay, so this is where your leader's going to be. And he has control over the whole formation, the direction, where they're going. Usually in the front, you're going to have like a compass man here somewhere, you know, and he's going to be taking bearings and stuff and making sure that everybody's on track, that they're going in the right direction, you know. But your leader's not going to be the compass man. He's going to be telling the compass man where we want to go. And the compass man is basically going to be, you know, manning the compass and making sure everybody's going in the right direction. But, you know, basically to sum it up, Enfilade is advantageous for the ambusher, and if you're in a defensive scenario, or you're actually the defender, you're in a disadvantaged position here if you're in an enfilade. And defilade, so you never want to be enfiladed. You never want to, if you're moving through an area, you're bugging out, or you're going from point A to point B, you're patrolling, let's say you have a group of guys and you're patrolling, you never want to be enfiladed like this. And this is just, this is really bad way to march. You want to be in a defilade, okay? If you're moving through an area, you want to be defiladed. And the best way to defilade is to do a wedge formation, or at least if you can't do a wedge formation, spread your guys out and stagger them. They don't have to be a direct line, but you can even just stagger them like this, so this way they're resistant to flanking fire, because if you're just marching in a line like this, somebody can come around your flank and just direct fire this way and kill you guys all. And an advantage to being defilated too is that you have fields of fire that can overlap each other. So each of these guys here, these guys here can cover a large area. This whole area can be covered with firepower. If you're enfiladed and you're in a straight line, you can't, pretty much only, you can cover the front just a little bit, but then your guys behind you are going to be covering the sides, So you're kind of limited to where, you can cover, mostly the sides here and a little bit on the front, so it's not the best position to be in. You want to be in a V formation. The V formation is the most advantageous marching position. And it's been proven, throughout the world, by multiple countries. They use this formation and it works. So, that's pretty much it. So just remember that if you're the ambusher, you want to enfilade your enemy and choke point, put them in a choke point so they're enfiladed like this, and you can direct fire down the longitudinal axis, their y-axis. Defilade is more advantageous if you're the defender. Or if you're the ambusher, then defilade is your advantageous position, because like I said, you can cover a large area with firepower. You can overlap your fields of fire and cover a large area, and so defilade is advantageous for the attacker, and it's also advantageous if you're a defender. If you're moving through an area, you want to spread yourself out, fan out. Don't cluster up into a pot, into a column like this, because then you're just going to be taken out very easily. So that's pretty much it. I hope that you guys learned something from this video. I know it's a lot of stuff to throw at you, but I encourage you guys to, if you missed something, rewatch the video again. This is a basic element of security for SHTF, and for SHTF tactics, whether you're defending or whether you're ambushing, you need to know this principle of enfilade and defilade. These are as elementary as ABCs. This is, if you're going to be talking about tactics for SHTF, this is your ABCs right here, enfilade and defilade. Everything is built off of this. Any kind of warfare in the last hundreds of years, they used enfilade and defilade. For hundreds of years it's been used. So you need to know this, all right? That's pretty much it. So maybe I'll do some more videos on different, formations and other kinds of tactics. But, for now, I just wanted to introduce the basics first. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care. God bless. And I'll talk to you soon.